Alright, so today we're going to be looking at what I bring to gigs as a New York jazz musician. Now this is kind of particularly interesting because in New York I do not own a car, or I guess I should say I don't own a car in general, but in New York I'm taking the subway and public transit and I don't have a car to bring all my stuff with. So when I moved here about 2.5 years ago, I had to really reevaluate how I was bringing stuff to the gig and what I can bring, because I couldn't bring like a giant pedalboard or anything like that, so I had to kind of, Tetris my way into this. So today I'm just going to go through everything I bring onto the gig and the little different options and little thought considerations that I do in order to basically be able to do this. But anyway, let's dive right in. We're going to start with the guitar case. So I use this Reunion Blues guitar case. This I think is the Continental Voyager or something like that. But basically it's really durable. It's got this cool subway grip, so that way I can just hold it from here. It actually works really well when I'm on the subway. And inside the guitar case I have my trusty D'Angelico. This is the one you see in like all of my videos, and that D'Angelico always has this tuner on it. This is the TC Electronic Polytune. I usually wouldn't really splurge on a tuner, but I felt like the Polytune was a really good option, and it like really is pretty accurate, so that way I can tune really quietly during quiet moments and not disturb anyone. The last thing you want to do when you're on a gig is like just blast guitar tuning, because that's like not the most pleasant thing to hear. And it is necessary, but like it's good to be able to turn off your volume and tune. Anyway, so I've got the guitar in this case, and then let's check what I have in my front pocket. So here I usually have various different things. In New York it's really cold sometimes, and the weather gets really temperamental, so I usually have a sweater or some kind of other change of clothes in here. But right now what I have is a binder, and this actually is my sister's binder. It says Nick Rousseau. And yeah, this is where I keep my music nice and tight. If I'm reading music, I usually kind of just leave this in here anyway so I don't lose it. Then I also have books. So, as a subway rider, I've learned to start reading books, and I've really enjoyed it. It makes the subway commute a lot more bearable when I'm actually like reading a book rather than just scrolling on my phone or doing something like that. Here I have two books, one for kind of informative reading and another one for like fun reading. This one is Glenn Johns' Sound Man, where he's basically talking about his life. If you're not familiar with Glenn Johns, he was a recording engineer that recorded for like the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, stuff like that. He was kind of around during that era, and his drum making technique is used by engineers all over the world now. He's the one who got all the crazy drum sounds in Led Zeppelin. So John Bonham sounds huge partly because of Glenn Johns. This one's called Paulina and Fran. It's a really saucy novel that I'm really enjoying. But anyway, you can find these books in the description if you want to check them out for whatever reason, but yeah. And that's usually about it for my case. I used to have fast fret, which is like this thing you rub on the guitar so that way your frets are smooth and stuff like that, but I don't really need it, so I don't bring it. I usually try to travel pretty light because, you know, I'm carrying everything on my back and I don't want to feel like doo-doo afterwards. And then I actually also have this thing. So it basically like is a thing for outlets without the ground. It's like a 2-prong thing without the third thing, and it converts it into a 3-prong thing. This is really useful when I'm like playing somewhere and they just have the 2-pronged one, and instead of being like, oh no, I can't play, I just have this little guy. And I have it in the case, and I actually forgot about it. It's in my little secret pocket here. But anyway, let's move on to the pedal board. So for my pedal board here, I have the Polytrain Nano. I think it's the Nano Plus, which fits about 5 to 6 pedals, depending on how big your pedals are. But this is slightly longer than their smallest model. This is really small, so I usually just sling it around my shoulder. It's got a little strap here, so I usually kind of like tote bag it like this with my guitar on my back. So then let's take a look inside. Wow, look at this mess. Isn't it great? Wow. So the first thing I have on top of the board is cables. I have 2 IEC cables, one for the pedal board and one for the amp, and then I have 2 instrument cables. I probably should carry around 3. That's actually probably going to be the next addition that I'm going to keep in the guitar bag just in case one fails. But so far so good. Then I have this pedal board right here. So I've got 5 pedals on here, and these usually kind of stay staple. I don't really take them off ever. These are like my 5 main sounds. I have the Walrus Audio R1 reverb pedal. This is like a great reverb that I use for like really ambient sounds, or like when I want it to sound like a big wet cave. It's got 9 presets, so it's really easy to switch between sounds, and I never have to set it. I just like turn it on and forget it. And then to switch, you just click on both the things. It's pretty cool. Then I have my Walrus Audio Fathom right here. So basically this one is just like my always on reverb. I have it as a plate setting, and I turn it on and never turn it off. This works really well when I'm using backline because I got my own reverb sound, and it also works really well with the amp I'm going to tell you about in a second. Then I have my Mulan EQ. This one I really like because you can change the mid frequencies, so I give it a little low mid boost. But again, whenever I'm using a backline amp, because in New York some venues have amps already there, I use this to basically get the same sound that I always do. Got my particle for cool delay sounds and really cool, like, kind of like ARP-y kind of sounds, like arpeggiator-y kind of thing. And then I have my Walrus Audio Ages overdrive pedal. And I actually have pedal demos of all of these individually. You can check out my playlist called Pedal Demos, where I go through all of them, except the Mulan. I haven't done a demo of that one. Leave a comment if you want to see that. But anyway, underneath, I actually have Velcroed on a one-spot power supply. This is the True Tone Power or whatever. One-spot Pro CS6. And this actually powers 6 pedals, so I actually have another cable that's here that's not connected to anything. I usually leave this on so I don't forget it, but I can actually power a 6th pedal. So sometimes what I'll do is take one of these pedals you see up here and put it in my guitar bag. And it usually depends on what kind of gig I'm doing. So sometimes I'll bring in extra distortion pedals, sometimes I'll bring a volume pedal, something like that. But that's my pedal board. Deceivingly heavy, I gotta find a better solution. So now let's talk about amps. So a lot of venues have amps there already, but a lot of venues don't. And sometimes I'm playing like on the street or something like that, so I need to have my own amp. Now, I basically kind of narrow it down to what are the lightest possible options, and I'm using those. So this is the first bad boy that I use. This is the DV Mark Jazz 12. It's very simple. It's got treble, bass, mid, reverb, and master volume. It's also got like a DI out, which is kind of cool. And this is my gigging machine. I've used this since 2014 or 15, and it's been through so much. It's falling apart, and actually the last gig I played with it, it didn't even turn on. I had to dad whack it. And if you're unfamiliar with dad whack, it's like, and then it worked. But I haven't actually used it since that happened because that was like terrifying. So I haven't been using this one lately, but what's cool about this is that it's really light. I think it's around 20 pounds, and it's got an open back thing, so I actually store an extension cable and a surge protector in here. So I'm always prepared. No matter what the power situation's like, I can still get my sound because my sound relies on power. The one I've been using lately is this one. This is the Hendrickson Sound Clone. So it looks like a regular Hendrickson Jazz amp, the 112, or sorry, the 110, but it only has one control. It just has a volume knob and an input and a line out. I got this for like $200 on Reverb, and I couldn't say no because it sounds like a Hendrickson. It just doesn't have the EQ, but I have my EQ and reverb pedal on my pedal board and my distortion sounds and all that stuff. So I really just need a speaker to make my guitar louder, and this does a very accurate job of that. This one's a bit heavier. I think it's about 25 pounds, but it's also really smaller. So I've been using this lately. And then a post-pandemic recent addition is actually this. My camera. And I use this little Rode mic on the top. I don't use this Rode mic for recording audio with the video. So actually, look, I got my microphone right here. It's just hiding. Haha. But this is what I use to record videos. And then later I do some light mastering to make the audio sound good and obviously edit the videos and all that stuff. But that's a recent addition to the gigs. Since the pandemic happened, I was like, oh man, I played all these cool gigs and I didn't get any kind of documentation of it. What gives? So now I try to bring it as often as possible because it's good to keep things, and it, you know, like I can use this as demos for other gigs. So yeah, like the power of gigs makes you get more gigs, kind of. Anyway, then we have this, my collapsible music stand. So basically this is the top and this is the thing. Sometimes I'll carry this, sometimes I'll sling it. I have a bag for it somewhere, but I don't know where it is right now. And yeah, I usually kind of just put this on top of the amp and bring this just in case I have to read some music. I used to have some of those like foldable collapsible stands that were really bad, but I actually left those at a gig and I don't know where it went. So yeah, now I'm using this. And then the final and most important part is my amp card. I think I got this for like $20 on Amazon, and I got this years ago and it served me well. It's really beat up and it's really wobbly and it's actually a little too short, so it's kind of annoying to carry. But this is basically the reason why I can do what I do. Without this cart, I'd have a lot of trouble. And I basically just stack everything on top of the cart. First I put the amp, then I put the pedal board, and then I put the miscellaneous things on top if there's any. And yeah, I should bungee it down, but the weight of the pedals actually kind of keeps it there. But yeah, I should actually really get a bungee because I'm pretty sure that's how the DV Mark amp kind of got messed up, is because I dropped it. Then finally, my picks. So actually, usually I keep on my back right pocket, I keep some picks there. And then in my back left pocket, I keep some alternate picks. These are usually different sizes. I'm using the Jazz 3 Tortex XL series. These are 1.35 millimeters. I found these recently, I really love them. So these go in the right pocket. These are the main picks. If I'm playing a different kind of music that maybe requires a different pick, I actually have these in my left pocket. This is basically the same thing, a little lighter. And yeah, I just usually try to carry some alt picks just in case. And then on my house keys or apartment, because there's not many houses in New York that you can live in, I have this little pick holder from Gibson that's really beat up, and I got a variety of picks there as more backup picks. Always have multiple fail safes for your picks. Before I had this, I kept them in my wallet. So yeah, just kind of have some somewhere. You could even put them behind your phone in your phone case or something like that. Or I don't know. So that is what I bring to gigs as a New York City jazz musician. If you're hearing this and you're like, wow, I want to book my own gigs, how do I do that? Well, I actually have a video on how to book gigs as an independent musician without a booking agent, so check that out and I go through all the processes. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, do the thing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.